Well, KAI got involved on the project. We do a lot of work with the other minority partner on the team, which is Legacy Building Group. So it's the HCKL team, and that's KAI and Legacy are the two minority partners. Hunt Construction is a major contractor. They're currently building the Falcon Stadium down in Atlanta for the Atlanta Falcons. And our partnership with Clayco and Legacy's partnership with Clayco, we've done a lot of work with them around the city. We're working at Washington University Medical School with them. Legacy's worked with them for like 10 years. They've seen our capabilities, so it wasn't one of those things, we need a minority, let me call them. Right. They said, we know and trust these guys and we can put them on this big project. Hunt combining with Clayco, and Clayco being a $1.4 billion contractor here locally, and then Hunt being the largest national contractor on stadiums, coming together was somewhat of a no-brainer, and then putting us together with them. So we appreciated the opportunity. When the first opportunity first came up, we got the call from Clayco originally, and then they tied us together with Hunt. But in other capacities, we worked on the St. Louis Blues Stadium. Okay. We worked on the first Rams Stadium. We worked on the Cardinals Stadium, the Ballpark Village. So we had a lot of sports experience. It wasn't just I need a black guy. It's like we came and we had a lot of experience to add to that team.
So once you guys got your feet wet and you got the proof of performance, what you guys have been able to do, this project right now on the riverfront, is this one of the most trying projects that you've had to deal with so far? Well,
all of these, this is a very large project, and I think that one of I think we've had in St. Louis's history a lot of politically complicated projects. If you recall, if you look back a couple of years, how much negotiation the St. Louis mayor, how much Mayor Slay had to do with the Cardinals negotiation, and you remember that went through over 12 to 18 months, almost 2 years of negotiation to get the Cardinals Stadium done, and it was a lot smaller dollar figure. Right. I think that this is just a similar thing. I think it's hot and intense right now because of the fast pace in the corner that we've somewhat been painted into to perform or lose the team. And so, yeah, I think it's a nail biter for sure.
When your position, your thing is creating jobs, creating opportunities. Yeah. There are a lot of politicians they still don't even know much about this. But a lot of the rhetoric is that these jobs are short term and you know, they only offering 3 years worth of work. What happens after that? What do you have to say in response to that?
Well, I think the thing is, if you have a stadium project and you have 3 years worth of work, you could also have no stadium and not have 2,500 to 3,000 jobs for people. And really what you have to do is think about, you pull the lens back and look at the entire city and say, well, how do we tier that? We have 3 years worth of work on this project, and then another project comes up, but now you have a trained and able workforce that you've been you know, bringing in opportunities for more apprentices, more young people to get trained, more people to build on their skill sets so they can work on the next project. So if you look at what's stacked out there in the marketplace, you look at now the private sector, not just St. Louis City asking for diversity goals, not just St. Louis City asking for boots on the ground. You have agencies like BJC, you have Washington University, you have Monsanto, people who hadn't traditionally in the past put a boots on the ground requirement, Cortex, all these different areas where there's lots of development and lots of minorities getting opportunities where they're being sought out, not just you know, happenstance to be on the project. So a project like this allows people to continue to move off of, let's say, a BJC Tower project. And when that's wrapping up, they can roll right into the Rams Stadium for 3 years. Because what are you looking at? A $500 million hospital tower on Kings Highway getting built with boots on the ground requirements. Right. So what are those people supposed to do when that job's over? Right. Okay, now roll them over to the stadium. Now let's take them, and Clayco's on that team, so they're tracking those people. So now we're identifying these folks that are working at Monsanto, are going to be working at BJC, that are working on the Arch grounds. You know, all these different projects, you know, these 3 years here, 3 years there. We're looking at the NGA project. What happens if we get the $1 billion NGA project? Where are we going to get that workforce and labor? Right. And if you look at the city as a whole in general, just with the current work we have, there's labor shortages. It's already getting tight. And people are saying, well, now that everybody's asking for minority boots on the ground, I can't find any more. I can't meet my goals. So what I like right now is a lot of the unions are proactively going into our communities. They're having these job fairs in Ferguson or St. Louis Community College up on their North Campus. And that's happening every couple months. The AGC put on that North Expo, North County Expo with the St. Louis Community College. The unions are actively pursuing folks. And it's a combination of things that are happening. If you look at what happened in the recession, the unions had to close their doors. They couldn't let apprentices in.
Right.
And you have a 5-year window there where the union skilled labor are aging. Some people left the industry or left St. Louis and said, I'm going to go down to Louisiana and help with the rebuilding of Katrina. And there's a lot of work with the oil factories and the levee work down there. A lot of people went down to Houston. A lot of people went down to Dallas and Texas because there was a lot of work in that Southwest and through the hurricane zones, because there was a lot of funding down there that carried a lot of people through the recession. So you had mass exodus of able-bodied skilled labor. You had people on the verge of retirement. They've been in the business for 30, 40, 50 years. So all those folks are leaving, retiring, and now the union doors are opening up saying, we need apprentices, we need apprentices. Well, you're not getting the traditional, just the white workforce where this is my nephew, this is. Those kids are starting to say, hey, I saw how hard Dad worked. I saw that, I might be interested more in the technology, or I'm going to college. Right. Or why? Because these jobs are good enough to build family structure to where you can afford to send your kids to college. So these kids are somewhat taking different career paths. They're not following Dad's footsteps. So what does that leave? It leaves a gaping hole, and not minority labor, labor period. Where are we going to get them? Right. Well, you're going to go. Let's go to communities we don't typically talk to. So not only is there a boots on the ground ordinance from the city that will be enforced on this project, but they are going there anyway because they don't have places to get people. And if we have the kids with the right mindset and the right work ethic and all those things, man, sky's the limit right now. This is the time to get in. This is the time to try to get into construction trades. Why? Wide open doors. They genuinely need you. They genuinely want you, and it's mandated that they have you. 3 things that haven't been in our favor, and this is the first year, 2015, that I can say the construction market is going to have a nice ride through 2018 with or without this stadium. So if you're out there and you're interested in the trades, go do it, go hard at it, be focused, and I'm telling these kids out there that sky's the limit.
This project is way bigger than just a statement of riverfront itself that we were talking off camera.
Yeah.
What else can happen? Let's just say everything goes good, you build the stadium. What other developments that can happen just by having the stadium built on the riverfront?
I'm gonna take it to I'm not gonna drill into the all the specific financing numbers, but from a 30,000 foot level, let's just talk about, you're looking at downtown, you're looking at the $395 million they're putting in our arch grounds. That's beautiful, and we talk about how that arch is a symbol and important to our city, and what that's going to make our skyline look like coming across the bridge. And when there's a game, they have the blimp come around or the helicopter, and they're like, look at downtown St. Louis. But that's a piece like this, and then they're going to tie that lid to go over to where you can go over to the ballpark village and all that stuff, which hopefully that continues to develop. I hear they're starting to work on their next phase of that project. But you look at the Ram Stadium that'll be adjacent to that arch, it's going to be as important as that arch. I think that's why it's as beautiful as it is, that they designed it to make sure that it really contributes to the skyline. So you put that billion dollar investment there, and then what's it say? Well, now it can go back to what Lumiere has done in the Four Seasons Hotel, and they have all that undeveloped property between the Lumiere and the water. And they sort of stalled development when the recession happened. There was a master plan to have all types of retail, like a little party district and all those things that can tie to there and to the new stadium. So you out come to the stadium, there's going to be a lot more things to do. What happens when we can use that convention center in the Ram Stadium full-time for convention business. And those convention people come and they now want to go to the Rams game, they see the new stadium, go to the new Arch grounds, go to Ballpark Village, look at the new retail on the riverfront. You know, all of these things are going to, you know, you talk about, well, this is going to cost the city another $7 million a year in revenue. Okay, how much more revenue are we going to net to the positive on having convention center year round? They're looking at $20 million a year possibly in some of the financial models. So if you're netting to the good $20 million to the positive, and the city is saying it's going to cost $7 million more for this new stadium, they're acting like, well, we got these bonds over here that we got to pay back, and then we're going to have this new bond. Well, you got $20 million to the positive, and you still got all the revenue that's going to come from the NFL and its players, and the players that come into town and have to pay taxes. That's going to be to the positive. Let's look at you know, what happens to the North Riverfront, north of the Ram Stadium. You know, there's master plans right now that Forum Studio has done that is showing development all the way up past the new bridge, where there's going to be industrial parks and Great Rivers Greenway and more things to do for people downtown to enjoy biking and running and all those things along the riverfront. I mean, this is going to be a dynamic catalyst to the city of St. Louis. It's exciting. And I know I'm saying this not only as, you know, a contractor on the job. I say, well, of course he wants this to happen. But I've always been a progressive person for St. Louis. And, you know, regardless if it's the Rams in the stadium or somebody else, which I have no idea. But I hope it is, because I know one of the reasons I came back from school was when they won the Super Bowl. And I was so proud of my city. I was in my senior year in college. Man, I almost got into tears. I was like, something about my city, and I mean the emotional effect it has, the ability it has to affect your city's brand on having, you know, 3 of the top sports in your city. But you know, we're just missing the NBA. But other than that, we are looked at as a major player in the sports world with all that, and we are still ranked, you know, number 17 out of 32 NFL cities. Yeah. You don't just leave that market vacated, you know, so.